It looks like America is finally saying enough is enough. New AP polling shows half of Americans believe Donald has gone too far in immigration, and most oppose his policies altogether. But the Trump regime clearly doesn't care, which should surprise none of us. Today, they lined the White House driveway with mugshots of undocumented immigrants, plastering alleged crimes like sexual content with child across the photos, without names or proof of their alleged crimes. And thanks to Donald's war on due process, we may never know if any of these accusations is even true. So the Trump regime is continuing with illegal deportations, arrests of judges, and the complete dismissal of the rights enshrined in the Constitution of the United States of America. This is fascism. These are the kinds of moves autocrats, dictators make. This is a thoroughgoing dismissal of our founding document that no American should stand back and take because it doesn't just impact undocumented workers or people you may believe don't belong in this country. It's going to affect all of us. In fact, it already has, because once you deny due process to one person who is in this country illegally or not, an American citizen or not, it's a slippery slope that will eventually reach all of us, even those who have been here legitimately, quote unquote, for generations. Sadly, all of this is just the beginning because during a press conference today, uh, the Trump regime saw no need to defend the illegal moves, the illegal and unconstitutional moves, I should say, that they continue to make. Taking a page out of Donald Trump's playbook, they doubled down and are continuing to take all of this even further. So just when you thought Donald's regime couldn't sink any lower, and by the way, they always can and they always will, because as I said many times before, there's no such thing as worst. There is always worse. Their war on immigrants continues to escalate. This morning, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and Border Czar Tom Homan, two of the most vile human beings ever to exist, unveiled a terrifying new policy. Migrants must register within 30 days or face deportation.
I got one thing I need to say real quick before I leave.
Took your notes from you, Tom.
Take my notes from me. I'm going to read it. I don't want a misinterpretation of what I'm reading to you. The registration requirements under 8 U.S.C. 1302. If you're illegal alien in the United States, this message is for you. You cannot hide from ICE. We're actively looking for you. Federal law requires every alien in the United States who has been present in the United States more than 30 days needs to register. For those 14 years or older, you need to be fingerprinted with the Department of Homeland Security. Federal law requires every alien in the United States to tell DHS in writing if you have a change in address within 10 days of changing that address. Failing to register with DHS and failure to tell DHS about your new address are criminal offenses, and they're going to be treated as such. Starting today. Make no mistake, if you're in the country illegally and you fail to do what the law requires, we will prosecute you, you will go to jail, then we'll deport you.
Can we deport him? I think that would be a really good place to start. First of all, he said he wanted to be clear. I could barely understand a word the guy said, honestly. So, and I have something else that I think is probably true. I'm guessing that English is his only language because, like most Americans, we are so deeply ignorant and arrogant that we actually think that that somehow makes us better than the people who come to this country to find a better life, who actually speak more than one language. But I guess for a lot of the people Homan is referring his remarks to, English is not their first language. So it's hard enough to understand somebody who is actually speaking the language properly. That guy is impossible to understand, and I speak English fairly fluently. Anyway, what he was saying, even though it wasn't that clear in terms of his enunciation, was that according to him, Homeland Security, ICE, and the Trump regime, there is no hiding, no mistakes will be accepted. Even something as small as forgetting to update your address will now be treated as a crime. Why? Because they are treating the people they are after not just as criminals, but as if they themselves, as human beings, are illegal, which is not a thing unless you're a vile racist, like Tom Homan. Until now, undocumented immigrants face civil penalties, not mandatory registration or criminal charges. And that's because entering this country without following proper channels is, or at least used to be, a misdemeanor, like getting a parking ticket. But under this new order, noncompliance is criminalized, and migrants must carry proof of registration at all times. A chilling step toward mass surveillance and racial profiling. In other words, how shall I put this? Show us your papers, please. Critics warn it will drive communities deeper into fear and isolation, making them even more vulnerable, which, of course, is the point. This is how it starts. Show us your papers. You better sew that yellow star on your coat so we can identify you. Although, of course, for people like Tom Homan and Caroline Leavitt and Christy Nome, the puppy murderer, it's a little easier because all they need to see is brown skin. So, again, that is all awful and should all chill us to our core. But this is about who we are and what it means to be a constitutional republic. What does it mean to be a constitutional republic when some of the core principles enshrined in the Constitution are being ignored and eradicated? This is about due process, as I say, and I'm going to keep repeating it because this is a fundamental right in this country, and it is being obliterated by a bunch of fascists. They're not just terrorizing immigrants, they're terrorizing those who would seek to protect them, and they're terrorizing those of us who know that it no longer matters if we were born here or not. Finally, Donald plans to spend his 100th day in office targeting cities and states that don't comply with his immigration laws. He's set to sign executive orders today to identify what cities and states are considered sanctuary cities. Well, I live in one, so I already know. To which I say, fuck you, Donald. The regime claims that this will, quote, strengthen and unleash America's law enforcement to pursue and protect innocent citizens, unquote, which is a lie. It is going to empower the pettiest, worst people among us to do their worst. But we know what this really is. Donald unleashing terror upon immigrant communities determined to deport citizens and non citizens alike because, I'm sorry to put it this way, he's a weak, pathetic man, and he gets off on exercising power about people weaker and more vulnerable than he is. The Trump regime stooped to new low when it comes to breaking immigration laws, which I'm going to get to in a second. But before we go further, we are not corporate backed. Mary Trump Media is not for sale. We are here to expose every lie the Trump regime tells and then tries to cover up, even as corporate media continues to bend the knee. Independent media only survives because of people like you. And together, we will stand strong and we will never back down. So, if you want to help us keep growing and fighting, like this video, share it, and please make sure to subscribe to our channel. So, we've seen the Trump regime, recklessly deport innocent people, and now they're even deporting US born children. I was going to say innocent US born children, but aren't children not by definition innocent? One of those children, deported American citizen, has cancer. Two kids, a 7-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy, were sent on their mother's deportation flight to Honduras on Friday. Again, both of them are United States citizens. That means they were born here. And according to the first section of the 14th Amendment, they are citizens of this country, whether the Trump regime likes it or not. The 4-year-old has stage 4 cancer and was deported without his medication or access to an attorney. And it just makes me wonder, does Donald Trump not have enough blood on his hands? I guess he doesn't. This happened just one day after the family was detained on Thursday. The family's lawyers were filing a habeas corpus petition to challenge their detention, but before it could be processed, I guess this was just a coincidence. The mother and children were flown out of the country first thing Friday morning. Attorney Aaron Hebert, representing the family, called the deportation illegal and unjustifiable, stating, quote, the speed, brutality, and clandestine manner in which these children were deported is beyond unconscionable, and every official responsible for it should be held accountable, unquote. Okay, now, there's no semblance of due process here, but something else. If the judiciary continues to fail to recognize the moment in which we are living, things like this will continue to happen. They need to act with more speed. This is a 5-alarm fire. This should not have happened. A judge should have been on this case immediately. I'm not saying the Trump regime would have done what it did anyway, but at least we would have a paper trail. At least we would have a judicial order that was being broken. Now what? Now what? That same day, another mother in Louisiana was deported with her 2-year-old child. That child is also a U.S. citizen. ICE proceeded with the deportation despite the child's father filing an emergency petition to keep the child in the country. CBS This Morning reported on the case here.
In the case involving the 2-year-old, a Trump-appointed federal judge in Louisiana raised concerns that the Trump administration appears to have, quote, deported a U.S. citizen without any meaningful process, end quote. The president's border czar, Tom Homan, disputed that claim on Face the Nation Sunday.
That female had due process at great taxpayer expense and was ordered by the immigration judge after those hearings. So she had due process. Again, this is parenting 101. You can decide to take that child with you, or you can decide to leave the child here with a relative or another spouse. Having a U.S. citizen child doesn't make you immune from our laws of the country.
We are not sure of the immigration status of the girl's father, but we do know he tried to have the child's legal custody temporarily transferred to his sister-in-law, who is a U.S. citizen. According to court documents filed by the child's custodian, ICE agents refused to honor a request to release the girl to the custodian, stating that it was not needed because she was, quote, already with her mother.
Well, Black Americans are very familiar with this sort of thing. You know, they're told, well, just follow instructions. Do everything the police tell you to do, and you'll be just fine. Bullshit. That is never how these things work. And now we're seeing it happen in the context of immigration. All of these people were detained after attending routine check-ins with immigration officials in Louisiana as part of the Intensive Supervision Appearance Program, or ISAP. In other words, doing what they were supposed to be doing. It's an ICE program that allows non-citizens to remain in their communities as they move through the immigration proceedings. In other words, they were following the rules, just like we're told that Black Americans are supposed to do. These people showed up just like they were supposed to do, and they were deported anyway because, again, there was no such thing as due process in the United States of America anymore. So with this, it begs this question. If Tom Homan wants to build a national registration system, why should anybody trust it? Well, that's sort of a rhetorical question, because why would anybody trust anything Tom Homan says or does? Migrants are already complying under existing programs and still being ripped away from their families and their adoptive country with no warning and no due process. If Homan is so obsessed with following the law, why did he conveniently ignore the legal requirement for ICE to coordinate care for minors? Well, it's obvious he doesn't care. Both families had American relatives ready and willing to take custody of the children. Worse, according to the National Immigration Project, both families were held incommunicado, blocked from contacting lawyers or family, an extreme violation of our basic legal rights. A federal judge has now scheduled a hearing for May 16th to investigate the case of the 2-year-old, because what's the rush? Seriously, the 2-year-old has stage 4 cancer. Plenty of time, right? Why do we need to, take care of this sooner? Are you kidding me? And this is, again, where the judiciary is failing us time after time after time. We need things to be speeded up. And the fact that you are willing to schedule a hearing that far out tells me that you don't actually understand what's going on in this country, and you don't actually care what's happening. These reckless immigration arrests are breaking families apart all over the country. On Thursday in Florida, federal immigration agents arrested the wife of an active duty U.S. Coast Guardsman while they were moving into new military housing. The arrest happened during a routine security check at the U.S. Naval Station in Key West. Her name was flagged for an expired work visa from 2017 and a subsequent lawful removal order. The woman married the Coast Guardsman earlier this year and is believed to remain in custody, and it raises serious questions. Will this woman get due process only because her husband is serving in the US military? Or more broadly, if the Trump regime goes after the wife of a service member and a sick child, who's next? And also, is being a member of the US military protection against any of this? Again, the Trump regime is not backing off, and thus far, it has been given no reason to. It ignores judicial orders, or perhaps worse, the judiciary is failing to respond with appropriate urgency to these absolutely illegal and unconstitutional moves that, I mean, listen, if you don't care that it's only happening to people in this country illegally, well, one, you should, but it is now happening to United States citizens. And if you think that those goalposts aren't going to keep being moved, if you think that the next reason ICE and Tom Homan and Homeland Security are going to give for rounding people up is that they are mean to Donald Trump, or they are speaking out out against the Trump regime, well, then you have more faith in these people than I do. Please take a second and like and share this video. Be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.